You've come back. I've come back for another day of the Wlog. Mainly because I wasn't happy with the audio from the last episode, or there wasn't enough coughs or burps. I made sure I was like, I need to get a cough in the first, a cough and a throat clear in the first 20 seconds, or it was all for naught. You know what I mean? So yeah, yesterday I talked about, I can't remember what I fucking talked about, but I wanted to get back on today because I have a little bit of free time. Wife's getting her nails done. Kids on break from school. So let's get in here and let's talk. Let's talk about drugs, man. All right, y'all ever smoked weed, man? It's pretty much what I'm going to do today. I do have wanted to do just a long form speaking piece on cannabis for a long time now, and I guess here we go. Let's do it. So, and I even have some friends who have poked fun at my cannabis use over the years, because I started at 18, which is kind of late to start in a lot of senses, but never wavered. It stayed, and it's probably going to stay with me a long time. So a lot of people may see this because the episode will probably just be titled Cannabis, and they'll be like, of course, Stoner Alex using a plant to describe his personality, but it's not. It really isn't. I feel cannabis to me is a legitimate passion, something I've been passionate about the first time I ever felt its positive effects, and not just getting high, not just, oh, this is nice, man. The first time it took away an ache that nothing else took away, except for painkillers. The one time I took them seriously, when I fucked my arm up. This guy, if you're watching the audio feed, you can't see it, but I have a big giant plate on my humerus bone, and I was 16 years old. I never drank. I had never smoked weed. Nothing. None of that. And sorry, there's a little speck on my camera, and I'm going to fuck my thing up by doing it, but it's driving me fucking crazy. Son of a bit. I'm going to have to move my camera. I got to get that speck, baby. And I'm getting you spec, and you've been unspecced. There we go. That's how vlogs work, baby. Live. Can't be looking at specs. You can't expect that from me. You can't expect this. I have a short attention span. Obviously. All stoners do. We're horrible people, right? Right? Right, Ronald Reagan? Sorry. Sidetrack. But I was 18, because again, the first 2 times I think I smoked weed, I'd felt, absolutely nothing. Nothing of what felt like consequence. It just was like, okay, I finally got over the hump. I spent my formative years, my high school years, just kind of, in a sense, denying that whole culture, especially as I was like coming up as a musician and playing rock music. 95% of people who play rock music smoke cannabis. I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but I'd be willing to bet I'm pretty close, or have no problem with it. Because again, there's plenty of people who did, and they're just like, I don't do it anymore. You get bored with it. Like, you stop buying it once, and then you just like never come back around to it. And that's understandable. And a lot of people, it's like, people don't need it, They require no relief in that sense from certain types of aches and pains. They just don't have it. Maybe they took care of their bodies a little better, but people need it for different reasons. Anyway, getting into it. My personal experience with it is what I want to talk about on today's vlog, and it's a decade-long love story, because I am 28 now, and I discovered it actually in this summer. So this is a decade of my life. So not half, about a third of my life. Cannabis has been something I've turned to for fun, for comfort, for conversation, for culture, like for so many things. And for a long time, I was made to feel very bad about that. A lot of people were. Whether it's, and again, you can't fault someone for making fun of you, like oh, you dumb stoners, or like, that's fine. That's always going to happen, and sometimes it's pretty funny. But society as a whole making you feel like a criminal, making it feel like, well, if you smoke pot, you're automatically okay. Well, in a couple of years, I'll see you when you're a cokehead. Well, that's so far from the case, and in a lot of cases, in my case specifically, and we'll talk about here, kept me off of everything else. It eliminated the desire for anything else. There was no desire to go any further. There was no desire to get hopped up on an accelerant, I felt no need to dive deep into an opioid. Cannabis brought me to just this nice level plane, especially as a kid who was not diagnosed with bipolar until his adulthood, as a kid who had flat feet, and again, through my own, faults on my own, wasn't always on top of it, didn't take care of it, had issues with my back and neck that I still have to this day. It landed me in a spot where I was like, wow, I was always sore. Whether it was my brain was sore, my back was sore, my feet were sore, I was always fucking sore. I wasn't dying, I wasn't in agony or anything of that nature. I was just sore all the time. And it got to be just overwhelming. I felt like that all through my high school years. I was sober as a bird through high school, which you probably should be. Looking back now, like, if I discovered things as a younger child, maybe things could have gotten out of hand. Like, if you discover it at a young age. 16-year-olds, I mean, it depended on your country, but, like, the sensibilities of kids in the United States, I don't trust 16-year-olds with booze. I wouldn't trust 16-year-old me with booze. So I don't know how much I could say I trust myself, 16-year-old me, with cannabis. But 16-year-old me and 18-year-old me weren't too far apart. Maybe a little bit. But yeah, first time I was at my friend's house, and this was the first time I ever smoked weed, was with the drummer of the bands I was with, my buddy Ryan. My closest, dearest, longest friend, still to this day. Smoked a joint with him in the back of his friend's car. The three of us, their girls at the time, and I was fifth wheel. Smoked a joint and watched Red Riding Hood, that like edgy remake. It was fucking terrible, man. It was so bad. And I almost felt like I was performing the being high thing. I didn't feel anything. I guess I didn't smoke it right because it was out of a joint. But it's actually, I misspoke. So that was the first time. The second time I smoked weed, because I remember after I had done it, again, I was all drug free and straight edge through high school. I was a volunteer firefighter, started at 16. So I didn't go on that path. You know what I mean? I thought any of it was bad. I believed that bullshit. And I actually drank first. I started drinking I was actually 17 when it was late spring. Or no, might have been that junior year. I can't remember, but I remember it was a solid year before. I'll get my dates jumbled up, you know what I mean? But I'm remembering that for some reason, summer of junior year when I was 17. So I'd already I knew what it was like to be intoxicated. I'd finally crossed that bridge. I'd been drunk. I know what it's like. I was like, okay, I know what this is like now. I can't imagine cannabis is much worse. So I hit up my friend, one of my best friends who always smoked weed, always never really pressured me to do it, but always was like, hey, it's here if you want to do it. I got the ways, got the means. And I finally hit him up. I was like, yeah, let me come over and I want to try. I want to smoke weed with you. This friend did eventually end up ripping me off for a year. A solid year ripping me off on weed, which sucked and really fucked me up. And I'm going to talk about it this week on M3. If there was, people like that were reasons why, cannabis legalization, I was so into it. I was like, God, this needs to fucking happen because nice people, kind, good-hearted people. I'm not saying I'm a saint, but I was a kid. I thought my friend was helping me discover this new world. And I was very thankful for him. He lived close to me. I could walk over. I thought, I was spending an appropriate amount of money. Now he was ripping me off bad. Half of my bags, giving me eighths that were 1.9 grams, that were rolled up and just very sleight of hand. And I'll get into that later. But I do want to talk about when he did kind of unlock my window to the world. When I thought my friend was helping me out, I remember that day I smoked weed out of a bong. And he used to have this big intricate setup. I used to think this was the only way he had to smoke weed. So many red flags with this guy. But I remember he would use hemp wick you'd light the bong up and you'd hit it. It'd be, it was just, I remember the first like time you took it and I blew it out, cough. Have you ever, while I was coughing, I was like, and I just remember being like, oh, this is it. This is it. I'm here. And I loved it. I loved it. Not in like a Train Spotting way where they do heroin, they like fall through like, I'm addicted forever. No, I just remember feeling like, God, I don't hurt. My arm, which always, it doesn't hurt. My back doesn't hurt. My feet don't hurt. Not like it was a miracle, like everything was better, but like all that like dull pain that I was always so accustomed to just wasn't there for a little bit. It was nice. And that's why I was immediately drawn to it. Of course, I have an addictive personality. Like I'm knocking over my camera right there with my big dumb feet. But I do. I have an incredibly addictive personality. Addiction runs deep in my family. Deep. So deep. It's just the amount of people who are addicted, who've died from addiction or diseases or circumstances related to addiction. It's fucked up. It's really fucked up. But it's in me, and I know it is. I can feel it. I can feel it with a lot of things that I do. That just gotta do it, need it. And I always try to run from that. That's why, like alcohol, I've tried to control, and I'm very thankful that I can't really drink a lot. I'm definitely a lightweight. For as big of a fucking guy as I am, two of these and that's it. I can't drink anymore. Maybe 3. And I get really sleepy and I need to go to bed. Thank goodness for that. It's like a fail safe. Stop. I don't know, because I just have no interest. I don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. The only thing that I liked the way it made me feel was, I would do more cannabis. Like that's the only thing that I would want to like, oh, let me have a little more. Let me do a little more if I did want to party and have a good time. There was a small period where I used Adderall. Maybe I'd say like a 4 or 5 month period where I used it pretty regularly. Horrible. I remember the way that made me feel, where I was like, I'm addicted at this point. I remember staying up for 3 days straight, about 2.5 maybe. I took like 200 milligrams of Adderall over 2 days, which for a lot of people, that's probably not that much. I don't know. It was a lot. I took a lot of the 30 milligram time relief capsules. Felt horrible. I remember I had to chug a bottle of NyQuil eventually to go to sleep and then reset. And then I never really did it again. In a pinch, that's one thing I would consider doing again in a pinch. Like if I had to fucking stay up and type a paper that was 6 hours long, or if I had to stay up and do a 24-hour stream, I'd probably take one of the 10 little blue guys. I kid. But, gun to my head, I wouldn't have a problem taking that. But besides that, it was just horrible. So I kind of know a bit. And besides that, like cocaine, heroin, I've never been a hard drug user. Ever in my life. Mainly just cannabis. Mainly. A few psychedelics, acid, a bag full of times, handful of times. Depending on the meaning of what a bag full is. It was a tiny bag, a little tiny sack. Tiny sack of acid. So, that first time was wondrous. And I was off to the races. But getting fucking ripped off. And that guy who ripped me off, I remember the day where I found out I was playing a band with someone. I'd been buying weed from him maybe about a year and a half. Maybe about a year. Seeing him a lot, Always going there. He's my dispensary. He's very easy to reach, get to. I remember, and I would ration out how I smoked because obviously he was shorting me, so I wanted to have enough. So I wasn't even, I was getting shorted on the relief I could have felt. I was working at Giant at the time, I didn't have stacks on stacks that I couldn't have gotten to my parents. Like, hey, let me get $20 for a gram of weed at that point. Sometimes it was like, remember there was some people that was like 25 for a gram of weed. Crazy. Fucking crazy if you think about it now. That's disgusting. I could get a pack of pre-rolls, almost like 4 or 5 of them for $25 now. Anyway. I found out because this guy I played in a band with, his brother, ooh, great guy. If I saw him today, I'd, give him a hug, treat him like an old friend. But he was, wild. He was wild, and he wouldn't fuck around and get shorted like that. And he asked me to get a bag for him. So I got, remember, an eighth for myself, an eighth for him, and a gram for my friend. All got shorted. Both eighths were 1.9, and the gram was 0.4. If you're not familiar with this, this is bad. We were shorted by, those eighths we were shorted by 30-40%. That gram is shorted by 60%. A lot. And I remember the guy I played in a band with hitting me up like, yo, what the fuck's up with these bags? And I again, none the wiser. Felt like an idiot. Felt like I had been played. It all kind of came crashing down on me. And I called my friend up. I'm like, dude, I know you've been shorting me. Like, I have pictures. I have proof. And you know what? It's all kind of coming together because these are exactly the bags you've been giving me since you started selling to me about a year ago. What's going on? You know, I wasn't confrontational because I'd known this guy since middle school. We were friends. We were very good friends. He's a boyhood friend. I knew him before getting high, you know, when it was just playing video games and lightsabers. And I got a response that I didn't expect. He just admitted to it. Yeah, sorry. Kind of just danced around it. And then pretty much I was just like, it was just like this non-answer where he said, yeah, it pretty much say, hey, you caught me. And then I said, okay, well, I need the weed. I need the weed or the money. I need you to make it right. I need you to split the difference. Just wouldn't. He just said, no, I don't have it. I don't have the weed or the money. Just stubborn. This, you know what I mean? Just like put up the block, and that was the end. We never hung out ever again after that. We were never friends again after that. We ran into each other around town because we grew up very close to each other. My parents still live close to where he's still living because he was finishing up college. Because he ended up getting busted bad and having his life kind of fucked up. And I'm not gonna say that's karma because I definitely don't think he deserved that. No one does for selling cannabis, selling other shit too. I wasn't involved with that. But yeah. I was blown away that friends could do that to each other. That's part of growing up, though, too. I was about 18, 19. Like, that's the kind of shit that happens when you turn that age. You start seeing, like, the people that you cared about or friends. There's always a couple that end up really disappointing you, or maybe you disappoint. And that was mine. That was my first big, like, wow, friends will fuck you over. It doesn't matter when it comes down to shit like this. And that's what made me still feel dirty. That's what made weed feel like the underground, like the black market, like it was wrong. It made everything feel more wrong. It made my like the protests from my parents, which completely went away. I don't know why. I don't even think they know why. They're totally pro-cannabis now. Completely. My parents are completely pro-cannabis people. And it's actually very enlightening to see because it felt like their disapproval of me smoking weed in like my late teens, early 20s, felt like it's just an obligation that was left over from their past. And they just they just stopped. I feel like they just got sick of it when they saw that I didn't go any further and I just liked to smoke weed. Didn't even like to drink that much. And yeah, they just chilled out and it stopped completely. And if they could, my dad has a job where he can't, you know what I mean? Even if it became federally legal, he couldn't, but has no issue, has talked about it maybe helping his aches and pains in the future, and my mom wanting to possibly get her card, my in-laws wanting to get their cards. Like, they get it. They're the examples of people who just came around and were like, okay, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. But that friend of mine fucked me over. But that's my introduction. Let's talk about what it means to me and how it's helped me, and then how it slowly morphed from this thing that I felt wrong about, that I needed to hide about myself, that I felt like was almost like a laughing point, or like an easy target for a joke. They're doing some landscaping work outside of my house, but you know what? It's that type of work right there that keeps my neighborhood looking fresh and clean, and I really appreciate it. I kind of liked it. It's like a nice background ambient noise. It lets you know I'm real. I'm recording from a real condo in a real place that's tended to by landscapers that I do not have to pay for. It's pretty sweet. I'm just going to see what they're doing. Huh? They're like right out there. That's hilarious. It's okay. That's what the Wlog. That's what the Wlog is all about. I don't have a boy hole here, okay? Like we do it at the M3 Boy Hole Studios. And yes, that is the name of the M3 studio. It's the permanent name forever. The Boy Hole. The Boy Hole. Moving on. Things just eventually started. Oh, actually, so before I get into things loosening up, yeah, I got arrested for weed. That was also, shortly after I had this incident where I lost a friend over getting shorted. About a month later, I got pulled over with 1.5 grams of weed on the way to a show in College Park, Maryland, on the campus of College Park. College Park cop pulled me over, took me to jail, and I spent a night in jail. I just had to spend a fucking night in jail because I had 1.5 grams of weed, which I could go buy I have right now, and could show a cop, and that has my name on it that says, a doctor says Alex must have this. I give thee. Went to jail. And I sat in a cell with it wasn't with like super unsavory characters. Jail's kind of mischaracterized. I sat with one dude was really tired and drunk. Another dude was really funny. Real white boy summer type. A guy who really throws the N-word around, I think a lot more than I feel, anybody should, really. But for a white guy, he really was banging it out pretty heavily in that cell, but nobody was really going to say anything to him. And I remember there was a fourth guy. For the most part, it was just us four for the 11 or 12 hours I was in there. And this other guy, this is when I knew I was fucked, because he actually got out a little later. He turned to me, he was just seemed like a normal guy, like a normal mid-20s guy. I know he's older than me. He seemed like a successful mid-20s guy in his workout attire, who was on his way to the gym that morning. And he was like, yeah, my license was suspended, and I didn't know. You can't drive. Dude, you drive on a suspended license, they could take you to jail. They took him to jail. It's like, I've been here 11 hours. I was like, what? The cop lied to me and said, no, you'll be in and out in an hour or two. No. Fucking no. I was in there for half a day. Part of me thinks that he said that on purpose to be a piece of shit, but whatever. That cop who arrested me was a fucking prick, too. Both of them. But that's a story for another day. Just remember sitting there. My dad came to pick me up. He was furious. Not even at the smoking, that I just got caught and arrested. Like that. He wasn't even mad at what it was. We barely talked about weed. And then I felt like I needed to, not be on it for a while. I had a court date. I had to take classes. I never took the fucking classes. Nothing ever happened. Not a fucking thing ever happened. So, yeah, it was all gravy and went away, too. And then just slowly from there, I kind of dealt with feeling, around family, around, not friends. Friends are always typically cool with it, but I had kind of more right-leaning friends because I used to be in the fire department, and they were weird about it, and I just dealt with that for so fucking long, and I hated feeling like that. I hated that fucking feeling. But I never stopped because I liked the way it made me feel. That's really the only explanation that I felt that I needed to give. I wasn't hurting anybody. There was no evidence I was hurting myself. And I liked the way it made me feel. I liked the way it made certain aches go away, certain pains go away. It wasn't a miracle cure or anything. It didn't change who I was as a person. It didn't make my life ultimately better, but it helped a little bit. And what's wrong with that? That's what hobbies are for. Hobbies make your life better. So many little things in your life make it better. Fucking Advil makes your life better. It would be like if I had chronic headaches and there are people like, nah, you can't take aspirin. The gateway drug. But the first time you ever take an aspirin, world's changed. I remember one of my teachers always said, if there's one thing you can take an unlimited amount, an unlimited supply of, or I think it was something along the lines of, because that would have been a weird question. But essentially the question was, if you take one thing to the past, 600 years into the past, what would it be? Well, all of us answered. She's like, no, I'll tell you what the best answer is. Aspirin. Because you will give aspirin to these people and they will think it's a miracle cure. Because compared to any of the relief that they had, aspirin it would have got them high in a sense. They would have felt so relieved from so many aches and pains. And it's not a miracle drug. It wouldn't cure them of anything, really. But they get to feel better. They get to not hurt as much. They get to feel some relief in situations where they wouldn't. And we have this fucking plant that grows out of the ground, which is just such a hippie argument. I get that. I look quite hippie-ish today. This is how I always look. I guess I am a hippie. I can't really hide from it anymore. But, the common argument, it grows from the ground. It really fucking does. It sprouts from the ground. You apply some fire to it, and it makes you feel a little better. So does aspirin. And we let all those things flow. I saw something recently that if alcohol was discovered 50 years ago, it would be illegal. And there'd be this huge stigma. But cultures have built societies and, culture and tradition around drinking. You can't take it away from people. There'd be violence in the streets if you tried prohibition again, especially in this day and age. It was horrible the first time they tried it. But cannabis, obviously then there's ties to racism, which you can look up. You can call me a fucking performative woke whatever, but it's in the history books. It's shit. They even did an episode of Drunk History on it, which I'm not saying confirms it, but when they're doing drunk history, that's usually history that's just been gone over over and over again and confirmed to the point where a comedy show feels comfortable kind of churning it out like that. Watch Drunk History, especially that episode. It's really funny. But, cannabis prohibition was tied to Hispanics and making it, Hispanics smoke weed and they're lazy and they're evil, and they kind of tied it to that. They tied it to an immigration crisis, and that's it. Then they just kept moving the fucking goalposts with, now it's a gateway drug, and now it's this, and now it's that, and now it's war on drugs, and they just lumped it in with everything else, and it just kept getting caught up in current after current after current of bullshit. Bureaucracy at its fucking worst. And believe I defend bureaucracy sometimes. I feel like bureaucracy was the only thing that kept Donald Trump from being a fucking crazy dictator. Whether you agree with me, left, right, or center. Before you all condemn me for being Joe Biden fans, believe me, he was my 5th or 6th choice on a list of about 7. But for real, that's that kind of, I agree with it sometimes. It's good to have lots of systems in place to get something through, something controversial. It needs to hit lots of checks and balances. But with cannabis, it just keeps getting mischaracterized. And keeps getting swept up in bullshit nonsense. And you know what? The fact that, and I'm going to get a little political here, I can't help it. The fact that this new blue Congress that I actually voted for hasn't made it a fuck all prior. I understand that things are happening, but you could go ahead and put it to a vote. You can go ahead and try to stick it in something. It's one thing that's always been kind of promised, and anytime we've had any opportunity to do it, we just fucking don't. I'll let the states deal with it. Okay? Let the states deal with gay marriage too. You want to go back to that? Love states' rights. I'm into that shit. I really am. I like that Maryland can decide things that, are more apt to Maryland. I'm glad that shit that goes down in Alabama doesn't apply to Maryland all the time. I like that. Not to diss Alabama, but I don't want to live there. I like living in Maryland. I don't live in California. I don't want to live there. I like where I live. I like the rules and laws set up here locally. It's a little different when you go to another state, but it's still the same. That's what federal laws are for. Mainly human rights. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Gay people deserve to be happy and marry who they love and enter into unions, share bank accounts, be able to make decisions about home and end of life stuff. They deserve that. That is life. That is liberty. And that is pursuit of happiness. I honest to God feel that the ability to consume cannabis falls right in there. I should be free to do it. I can make an informed decision on what I'm putting into my body, and it's pretty cool. I wish I had a container to show you here. It has all of the information on it that I need to know. It's a nice little nutrition label, essentially. And the provider that I got my card through, they're very knowledgeable. How great is it to have all these resources at my fingertips to guide me, to tell me, hey, don't take too much of this edible, don't go too crazy, No, I just started smoking weed and thought I was having heart attacks. And then people would say, oh, it's bad, and, that's where all, the what was it, Reefer Madness movies came from. Yeah, because 14-year-olds were, smoking whole blunts Facing blunts. You're not supposed to do that. I feel like your experience drinking would be better if you maybe started off with a beer or two. Then, the first night you drank, you made yourself sick and got alcohol poisoning. Just saying. Just fucking saying. I'm getting heated, but I like this. I've barely talked to people about how cannabis made me feel. It's just my experience with it. I think that was the plan. A lot of the times when I do the vlogs, I don't even remember how I start. I just start rambling and going and not even knowing where I am. But I'm going to type in just hey baby booze. Make sure my chat still works. There it is. Because nobody came to my birthday party today. Nah, it's okay. It's a funny topic. Also, doing the Wlog is a funny thing. This is really for, I don't know. I imagine this just being preserved and me looking back on these. I'm not really as concerned with live attendance because when I played Crunker, that was when I had the most people come and tune into the channel. But the content wasn't quality. It wasn't what I was capable of. So I really enjoyed doing this. So thank you all who listen. This is just a quick commercial break. This is being done live right now at twitch.tv/Wolsky Live, WOLSKY Live, LIVE. And you can also listen to the audio version for free. You don't have to pay the $5 at patreon.com/M3podcast. Use the number 3. If you're watching on Twitch, you can look into the corner there, pointing at it. And that is the link. So you can go see this anywhere you want. If you go and you like the other stuff over on Patreon, I would appreciate that. Spend $5, get some other cool shit, but you don't have to. Anyway, moving on. Quick ad break. This will not be like the last M3. My meltdown. As I got older and I had a child, I remember thinking when I was pregnant, my wife was pregnant, my girlfriend at the time, that I maybe had to quit, maybe had to move on. How do you explain that to a kid? You know what I mean? And then you realize it's easy to explain to a kid. I go to the drive-thru. He's in the back seat. I don't wave and say, "We're going to buy weed, kid." I say, "I'm going to pick up my prescription. I'm going to pick up my medicine." I don't drink heavily in front of them. I don't, like to use cannabis in front of them or around them. It's not something you should really do if you're a parent to a heavy extent. But when I have aches and pains, I have to. I absolutely have to. I'm not saying I smoke up in the house. You walk outside. I don't let the 2-year-old run around. You know what I mean? It's usually around nap times and settle down times. And I'll go out and use my prescription that I was given by a medical provider. And I'm not going to be made to feel shitty about it. Just not. You know what I mean? Just not. Just like these gardeners, these landscapers are not going to feel bad about providing this nice ambient audio for the back of the Wlog here. We're going to push through. We're going to fucking push through because that's what we do here. And I want to go another 17 minutes. Oh, goodness gracious. It's fucking warm in here. It is fucking warm because I turned the AC off. And I had unplugged the fridge and stuff just so there's no... God, isn't that funny? I tried my best to eliminate the background noise. Background noise, baby. All right. I want to talk more about cannabis. Not done yet, baby. Not done. I'm going to take a sip of my Truly here. And if you'll notice, I did not take a sip of that the entire time. Because I'm radical and awesome. I have self-control, man. Cannabis always helped me with playing music. That was always my... and this is just where it was for fun. Now I just want to talk about the fun things I did with it and the bonding it helped me do. I always thought that was just my thing. Right before I went to go on stage, I'd take a big old fat bowl rip. I liked that just ease and relief, especially when I was getting ready to go play like the hour sets, like one of the 3 hour sets I'd have to play in a night. My bass is kind of heavy. It hurts your shoulder after a little while. You're standing there. It's like, obviously it's not super rigorous, but it requires some physicality, especially we'd get into it. We move around. We knew how to work a stage. There was a level of physicality that cannabis really helped just loosen me up. That alcohol, especially when we're out of the road, you want to drink every night. helps you sleep. It's just, that's not good for you. That's not good for you. Drinking's fine. Having a couple nights where you go out, maybe have more than 3, play a good show, maybe wake up the next morning like, oh, man, I need to get some pancakes and bacon. There's not too much wrong with that. But there is something wrong with doing that every night. And it'll get to you. Even steady, like 3 drinks a night, that'll fuck you up. You'll start to feel slower. Everything will just kind of suck. But cannabis helped me out there. And I remember actually touring was the first time I went to a dispensary in Colorado. Life-changing. That's where it all felt good. It felt okay. I didn't feel wrong in any sense anymore. Like, it all kind of went away. Burp count, baby. Oh, God, that was sharp. That was super sharp. I walked into this dispensary, and it was like the future. Pretty LED boards. You wait in line for a bud tender that takes care of you, that asks you the questions you need to know. It's not like you just walk around like, oh, let me get some of this. It's very tailored and personalized. I like how they do it. I like it. It gives it a legitimate feel. When you walk up there and there's a bud tender, like, what do you need? How do you need to feel? What kind of product? Because you know what? At the end of the day, a lot of those people know. A lot of people want to walk in there, get their flower, and walk away. And they understand that. But they really will honestly be like, but hey, you know, we have these tinctures. Like, they'll tell you, like, this stuff's really good for X, Y, and Z. The topical ointments, this is really good for X, Y, and Z. It felt so legit. It felt like this thing I was passionate about. I wasn't just passionate about drugs. I felt vindicated. My passions felt vindicated. And from that moment, I'd always knew I want to work in the industry. I'm actually trying now. It's, I've been out of work since COVID started. And I'm glad I ended up kind of working out in my favor. Oh, Jesus Christ. Wait, what's up? No, I'm good. What's up? Oh, hi. I'm almost done. But everyone, that was my wife. I did not expect her to be done with her nail appointment that soon. That was hilarious. I was terrified. And that means we're going to be coming near the end of this year, because we're going to be doing some family fun time. But I'm doing my best to work in the industry now, and it just feels like full circle. You know what I mean? It feels like from that first moment that I walked into a dispensary in Colorado to what I'm trying to do now. And again, I want, this talking thing to eventually pay off, but I need to get back to work and have a steady paycheck. So that's where that comes in. I can work in an industry that I'm proud to sell the product I'm selling. I feel like I could offer some insight that felt illegal. It felt wrong. It didn't feel like knowledge I should be sharing with people. It didn't feel like, oh, you should try this and make you feel good. I felt like I still felt like I was peddling drugs. I was peddling evil onto young people. But it's all changing in such a big way. And I feel like one day we're gonna wake up. Hopefully it's soon. These assholes get off, these lazy, and it's both sides. I don't ever do the both sides thing, but when it comes to cannabis legalization and when it comes to cannabis prohibition, both sides just drag their fucking ass and keep punting it down the field, and it's just ridiculous. And I'm sick and tired of hearing it's not an issue right now. There are more important things. Again, it keeps getting kicked down the road. Then just get it done, and we'll shut the fuck up. I've had people close to me say that. They'll be like, well, I don't care, but we have more important issues. Like, okay, well then do it really quick. It's not hard. It's not hard to draft up a bill and then kick it through. Something simple like that. Not a political podcast, right? All right, that's the end of the Wlog. That's gonna be the end of the stream today. I'm gonna go hang out with my wife and kids. I appreciate everybody who came by, and I am glad I was able to knock one of these out today. After yesterday's was fun, I really enjoyed doing it, but the audio wasn't good, and I felt that was really lacking. So that is all for today. I appreciate you. If you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, please go to patreon.com/M3podcast. Use the number 3. Obviously, you can see it in the top left-hand corner. You can listen to the audio version of this for free, but there's also, if you pay $5, there's just a litany of other bonus content, which I'm very proud to present with my my business partner here, whatever you want to call each other, Tyler Cetera. But if you're listening on the audio version, come on over to twitch.tv/WalskiLive. It's free. It's infrequent. But I also have a Discord that if you ask me, if I'm on stream and you ask me for it, I'll give it to you, and you can come into the Discord, hang out, do cool stuff. All right? Cool? I guess these are the Cannabis Diaries. I love you. The Wlog is over, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye, beautifuls.